I remember when I called the lieutenant for the Fort Myers Police Department that's in charge of handling media to confirm Officer Jobbers Miller's passing, all he could say to me was, "We lost him." And you could just hear the sadness in his voice from that. And just last week, this time last week, we were talking to Councilman Johnny Streets about the condition of Officer Jobbers Miller. He was in surgery. He was hopeful that Officer Jobbers Miller would pull through in this case. Of course, tonight we are continuing to bring you coverage on the fact that he did not make it. His family says he has no longer been fighting and he is resting peacefully right now. Now, we have been dealing with and seeing fundraisers all across Southwest Florida from this week into this weekend. Plenty of different agencies across Southwest Florida showing their support tonight, businesses showing their support, initially hoping that Officer Jobbers Miller would recover, and now that money is going towards Officer Jobbers Miller's family and the funeral costs. Now, Four New Corners' Jasmine Miner was involved in one of those fundraisers yesterday, but that was before we had heard this awful news that Officer Jobbers Miller had passed away, and tonight you went to another fundraiser that was planned before his passing, but I'm assuming that this turned more into a vigil for this officer.
Yeah, it was a memorial, which was very, very sad and a somber moment for everyone there. And it just, if you looked around the room between Dixie's Roadhouse, there were gifts, banners, a live band of music, but if you just took a moment and paused and really looked at people's faces, you could see the tears coming down so many cheeks. And everyone there says they could feel his passing personally. Even though the music is upbeat, the mood is somber among those who showed up to honor the life and death of the officer.
It hit kind of close to home.
Behind it all are the tears falling for Officer Adam Jobbers Miller.
Adam Jobbers Miller, he paid the ultimate price, and it's the least we can do is help out his family during this time.
Monetary donations flooding in for the family of the Fort Myers police officer who was shot while on duty last Saturday. He passed away just last night. Dixie Roadhouse bar manager Lynn says Jobbers Miller would often come in. She says it's hard to imagine the risk officers like him face at the start of every day.
You never know when they leave in the morning whether they're going to be able to go home to their family and their loved ones. It's heartbreaking.
Mayor Joe Coviello also showed up and says the loss makes it painfully clear what our officers do for us and the risks they take.
You know, when something like this happens, it makes you realize what an important job and how much they mean to your community.
As the fundraisers continued to bring in financial support, the manager of Dixie Roadhouse couldn't help but think of the other officers in America who become targets just for doing their job.
All over the country we've heard about this happening, and it just, enough's enough. It needs to stop.
I had the honor of speaking with Officer Jobbers Miller's car patrol partner, and as you can imagine, she was in no shape to speak on camera because she said she would be in shambles. But she did allow me to share a few words from a Facebook post that she made a couple days ago about the very moment she came back to the car patrol, their car patrol car, and she found his belongings. And this is what she wrote on Facebook. She said, "I found my emotions torn after seeing his things in our car, and as I tried to remain strong on the outside, a wave of pain crushed me from within." And she went on to write, "It is easily forgotten that we are human beings too. We have a family too. We have a desire to live too." And Lisa, the bar manager at Dixie's Roadhouse, they said they've been having raffles, live music, gifts. They're pretty much doing absolutely everything they can in order to raise enough money for the family.
It's amazing to see these businesses too holding up on their promises to raise money for this family even after his passing, to make sure that this family are taken care of in this tragic event. Thank you so much, Jasmine, for what you brought us tonight. We appreciate your hard work on this coverage. And of course, as Jasmine had mentioned, support from all across Southwest Florida has been pouring in for this officer. And we do want to read you a message from Senator Marco Rubio that he sent us in tonight. He says, quote, "Jeanette and I are deeply saddened by the loss of Officer Jobbers Miller, who was shot in the line of duty last week. His family, his friends, and the entire Fort Myers Police Department are in our prayers. This serves as yet another reminder of the risks our law enforcement officers face when they put on that uniform, now and always. We stand with the thin blue line." Again, that was U.S. Senator Marco Rubio. Now we're also hearing from Governor Rick Scott. He did put out this message saying, quote, Our hearts are heavy to learn of the passing of Officer Jobbers Miller. Police officers like Adam Jobbers Miller put their lives on the line every day to keep our community safe. My wife Ann and I are praying for his family and everyone in the entire Lee County law enforcement community this evening. Now, aside from law enforcement and aside from government officials, we're also hearing tonight from a local girl. She's from Cape Coral. She's 16 years old, and she is the founder of a nonprofit that takes officers' uniforms, fallen officers' uniforms, and turns them into teddy bears for their families to have and cherish forever. Now, she's made over 340 different bears for law enforcement agencies across the country, and tonight she's telling me how the bear that she plans to make for Officer Jobbers Miller's family is the first local law enforcement officer she's had to honor. Blue lights turned on outside the O'Grady household, and inside, signs of support for law enforcement and blue line bears.
The thin blue line is stronger than any other force there is, and all of us are here in this together.
16-year-old Megan O'Grady uses fallen officers' uniforms to create teddy bears for their families after hearing of 29-year-old Fort Myers police officer Adam Jobbers Miller's line of duty death.
It's been a really, really bad week.
She plans to make a bear just like this one in his honor.
Everything's made out of his uniform shirt.
The officer's name and number in the front, original patches from his or her uniform, plus
the eyes and nose are buttons. Then it has Blue Line Bears and his end of watch date on his feet.
Megan started her nonprofit Blue Line Bears after 5 officers were ambushed in Dallas in 2016.
I started to realize my dad isn't safe anymore.
Her dad works for the Cape Coral Police Department.
Tango 20 Cape 1050.
And puts his life on the line every day.
Let's start with your license.
Up until now, the officers she was making bears for were out of state or hours away.
It always seemed like these officers were never going to be like in this area right here in Cape Coral or Fort Myers because it always seemed so safe here.
So when she heard about Officer Jobbers Miller's death here in Southwest Florida, she couldn't help but think of her dad.
I can't help but think, like, what if it was him in the situation? And it's ridiculously hard to think about because it could have been him.
So that's why now, more than ever, she feels it's her duty to step up. And she has this message for the family of Officer Adam Jobbers Miller.
We are here for them. We will always be here for them. Literally the entire police community, we will always be there for them. He won't be forgotten, and they won't be forgotten.
Such an amazing young girl, and she also recently got a letter from President Trump thanking her for everything she does, saying that these bears really show that promise these officers make to serve and protect their communities, when they do make the ultimate sacrifice, it does not go unnoticed. Now, we're also learning more about the man behind the badge tonight. We're learning that Officer Jobbers Miller was initially from New Jersey, an area called Wayne Valley, New Jersey. He was a firefighter there. Then this is all before he became a police officer for the Fort Myers Police Department. Then he became with the police department here in Fort Myers. He was with them for 3 years. But before this, when he was in the New Jersey area, he was a firefighter there, also a wrestler. So the team that he was wrestling with and the fire department that he worked for in Wayne Valley, New Jersey, posted this photo of Officer Jobbers Miller on their social media pages, thanking him for sacrificing his life so that others could be safe. And we're also learning from the local NAACP chapter tonight, the Lee County chapter, on this tragedy. Their message says, in part, quote, "On behalf of the Lee County NAACP, we offer sympathy and heartfelt wishes to the family of Officer Jobbers Miller and to the Fort Myers Police Department and lift them up in prayer. The Lee County NAACP will be pulling together a monetary offering along with flowers for Officer Jobbers Miller's family." Now, as you can see, so many people across Southwest Florida really just showing their support, showing their unwavering support for this officer and his family at this time. We're going to continue to stay out here at the funeral home and bring you another update in just a bit. But for now, Patrick, I'm going to send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Lisa.